Chris Porcelli here. Thanks a lot for checking out this video. This is going to be time well spent for you today because I'm going to go over a personal mobility assessment that you can do right there at home while you're watching this video and be able to identify movement restrictions that might be impeding the sports that you play, the motions that you do, or just not letting you feel 100%. Why do we need motion? Well, it's because motion is life. Okay, motion is action. Okay, we really can't do anything except for think without moving. Okay, and every one of our movements takes place at a particular joint. Okay, I have a skeleton here next to me so I can help explain that a little bit better. And each one of these joints is moved by muscles. Okay, so this is very similar to the type of assessment that James and I do in our office, but I'm going to give you kind of an abbreviated version just so you can kind of get a general sense of how your body's moving in some various areas so you can start to identify some of the bigger movement restrictions. The ones we have are hundreds and hundreds of different motions long. This is only going to be 16. So what I want to start with first is just a kind of a general understanding about what it is that we're looking at. So as I mentioned, we're looking at motion of individual joints, but we're also looking at motion of multiple joints combined. Okay, if you take the hand, for example, okay, the hand is our reference point for our entire upper extremity in most cases. Okay, usually whenever we move our upper body, our shoulder, our elbow, and obviously our hand, it's typically to get our hand into a particular position. Okay, this is so that we can grab things off of high shelves, so that we can change light bulbs, so that we can flip switches, so that we can do all these different things with our hands. But those motions are actually a cumulative sum of the shoulder, the elbow, the radioulnar joint, the wrist, the fingers, and basically it's just a byproduct of all these different joints synchronizing together. Same thing when we look at things like our spine, for instance. Each one of these bones is a joint in and of itself, right where these bones come together. So every time we do something like twist, okay, we're moving at each one of these joints. When our feet are on the ground and we're moving our lower extremity, everything is involved from our feet, our knees, our hips, and even up into our spine most of the time. So every one of these joints is really important, and every one of them is needing to be looked at a little bit in order to figure out whether or not it's kind of doing its part in helping the whole body accomplish the tasks that we're trying to accomplish throughout the course of the day. So in these motion assessments, I typically will tell people that we're looking for two things. Okay, one is called motion quality and one's called motion quantity. Okay, and those terms should make pretty good sense when I kind of give you a little bit extra definition. Motion quality is basically how does it feel getting there? What is it like on one side versus another? Is it different? Does it feel weaker? Does it feel more painful? Does it feel restricted? Does it feel tight? Does it feel what? Is it different? Okay, that's motion quality. Motion quantity is just the distance that you move. Okay, so if I can move one elbow this far, but I can only move the other one this far, even if I say, well, this feels about the same, clearly there's a difference, right? So motion quantity, even though it's different than motion quality, it still gives us some really important information. Okay, so let's go over some motions that you can do right now while watching this video and begin to assess your own body's mobility. All right, so what we're going to start with is a standing rotation. Okay, now this is going to incorporate joints all throughout the body, okay, from the feet all the way up to the neck. Okay, and you'll see what I mean if you do this while you're watching. So if you feel comfortable, go ahead and stand up. Get your feet about hip width apart. And all I want you to do is have your arms to your sides and just turn all the way to one side. Now what you're going to notice is that once you get to the actual end of the motion, if you were to try to go further, you'd have to do something kind of awkward. Like you'd have to lean forward a little bit, or you'd have to really pull your feet up off the ground so that you are not really standing on a stable base anymore. So don't go that far, but just go as far as you can comfortably and just kind of feel what that feels like. Okay, your head's turning, your trunk is turning, your hips are turning, your knees are rotating a little bit, and your feet are slightly changing position as well. Okay, now go ahead and go to the other side and feel what that feels like. I don't know if this is showing up in the video, but from a motion quality perspective, this side on me feels a lot more restricted. Okay, I feel a little bit more restriction in my hips, a little bit more restriction in my trunk. And what you want to be doing is you want to be kind of mentally making a note of these limitations that you have. So I would actually write down on my paper, right standing rotation. Okay. So this was one of the 16 motion assessments that I want you to do. Here's another one. Okay, how about just pulling the arm across? Okay, so you're standing face forward, your whole body is staying in position, and it's just your arm that's moving. Okay, what is that like for you? Okay, on me it feels about the same. Right arm feels like I'm a little bit more tight there, so maybe a little bit of a motion quality thing. Okay, what does that look like for you? Okay, because what that is this motion here, and your scapula's moving, it's kind of pulling you across a little bit. Okay, what does that feel like for you? You know, do that, check it out. Okay, next one on my list that we have is the opposite. Okay, so what you're going to do is you're going to take your arm, I'll actually turn to the side so you can see this better. So you're actually going to take your arm, and you're just going to pull back. Okay, and trying not to do anything weird like coming way down or going way up or anything like that. Just, you know, pull back. You don't have to rotate your body, you know, you're just looking at just your arm here. Okay, and then the other side, same thing, just pulling back. Okay, so again, when I do this, my motion quality seems to favor my left side, and I seem to feel a little bit of extra tightness, tension here. I don't know if that's because I worked out yesterday or not, but it's worth making a mental note of. You know, see what that feels like for you. Next one that we're going to do is going to be this way. Okay, this is called shoulder flexion. Okay, this is where you're taking your arm and you're bringing it all the way up. Okay, shoulder blades moving a little bit. These joints are having to go along for the ride. Your spine is arching a little bit as you get to the top. You know, feel that on both sides and feel what that feels like. Does it feel restricted? Does it feel painful? Does it feel weaker on either side? You know, really assess that motion quality. And if you're in front of a mirror, or if you can somehow visually see, also check out the motion quantity. Is there a difference? Okay, so that's another one. Then we're also going to go here. Okay, this is called abduction. Okay, so we're going to go hand facing down, bicep and elbow pit facing forward. We're just going to go out to the side and try to go all the way in towards the head. Now, be mindful of whether or not you're kind of going forward, you know, as you do it, because a lot of people, once they get here, they kind of go like that. So just be mindful if you're doing that. It's not wrong if you do it, but just be mindful and know that if you're doing it on one side and not on the other, then the side that you are doing that on probably has some restriction. So see if you can do it the same way on both sides and identify any kind of a motion limit or a quality issue. Okay? Now we're going to do a motion of the hip. So I'm going to actually bring this chair out, and I suggest you do the same if you have any, you know, feeling of instability by balancing on one foot. Don't even bother trying. Just try to isolate just the motions of the lower body that we're really trying to look at, and don't worry about the whole balancing piece of it. That's my advice to you. So first thing we're going to look at is going to be called hip flexion. Okay, very similar to this motion of shoulder flexion. We're moving in the same direction, but we're now moving at this joint. Okay, so we're going up this way. Okay, so what I'm going to do to start with, I'm actually going to do this with a bent knee. I'm just going to lift my leg up. I went to the trampoline center last night with my son and his friends, so these muscles are a little bit sore. But that's what I have on the left. That's what I have on the right. Okay. You're going to notice that as you go through this motion, if you keep going, you're going to want to kind of do this. Okay. Again, not wrong, but just know whether you're doing it or not so you can adequately determine whether you have a motion restriction or not. Because if I do this on one side, if I only do this on another, doesn't mean I have a limit on this side. It just means I got here differently. Okay, so be mindful of that. Okay, so then we're going to check the same motion, but now with the knee straight. So now we're going to lock this knee. And you can see I don't have a whole lot of motion there. For anybody who thinks that you have to be able to bend down and touch your toes in order to be considered healthy, well, that just disproves that idea, doesn't it? So, that's what that looks like for me. So, take a look at that, see what feels different. You know, if you feel different with the knee locked, you know, make a note. If you feel different with the knee bent, make a note. Hip extension, okay? This is going to be going the opposite way. So this one we're going to look at straight leg, okay? And with the knee bent. Okay. And again, just feel what you're doing on both sides. Feel the joint move, okay? This is what you're doing. You're pulling your leg back behind you. Okay, that's going to really be firing those glutes and those lumbar spine muscles, hamstrings. Okay, so just feel what you're doing there. You know, feel the leg go back. Feel how easy it is or how hard it is. And if anything feels dramatically different, just make sure you make a note. Because we have a saying that I'd like for you to adopt too, which is that we're looking for the elephants, not the mice. Okay, so the things that are a really big deal, you're going to notice them. Okay, and if you're like, well, I don't really know if one's different than another, but maybe a little bit here, then it's probably not that big of a deal. Okay, so you probably don't even need to worry about that one. Now we're going to look at some motions of the spine. Okay, so the spine basically moves in 4 different directions. It can go back, forward, side to side, or it can rotate. Okay, so we're going to look at the back and the forward. We already looked at the rotation, and we looked at it as part of the whole body chain. Now we're going to look at the back and the forward. Okay, so you're going to stand, knees straight, head facing forward, and all I want you to do is just arch your back. Okay. Now on this one, we're not really measuring right to left. We're just measuring to see what it feels like and whether it feels like there's any restriction. Okay, because you only have one spine, so we can't really compare side to side the same way as we can with the limbs. But just do the motion and see what that feels like for you. Does it hurt your lower back? Does it hurt your mid-back? Does it hurt your neck? Does it feel tight? Does it feel restricted? Does it feel like you don't want to be there for very long? Make a note of that. That's probably pretty important, especially if you have any kind of spinal issue. Okay. And now we're going to check the opposite motion. Okay, this is the bending forward. Okay, so now keep in mind that I'm not really bending at my waist here. I'm just basically pulling my chest towards my belly button. Okay, and I'm just kind of curling. Okay, what does this feel like? Does this bother you? Does it feel uncomfortable? Does it feel weak? Does it feel like your back is saying, get out of that position? Those are things that you need to know. Now we're going to look at this with the hips involved. Okay, now this is just a standard toe touch, and all this really is a measurement of how far your spine can bend forward and how far your hips can allow you to bend forward. Okay, so don't laugh when I do this because I don't go very far, but it feels okay to me, so I'm not really too worried about it. So you're going to keep the knees locked, your arms are going to be out, and you're just basically going to slowly, keyword slowly, go down until you reach the end. Okay, this is as far as I can go. Okay, and I'm just feeling what I'm feeling here. Do I feel something different on the left leg versus the right? Do I feel anything different on the left side of my back versus the right? These are important things to note. You know, I do feel a slight bit of extra restriction on my left side, which is historically the side that if I do get any back pain, which isn't that often anymore, thank God, it's usually on that side. So make a note. How do you feel doing that? Okay. So the next one that we're going to look at is going to be cervical rotation. Okay. So this is your neck that we're talking about. These 7 vertebrae right here, these 7 joints, are what make up this motion. Okay. And keep in mind that this is where your brain turns into your spinal cord and starts to transmit signals all the way through your entire body. Okay, so any amount of restriction in your neck motion can significantly impair your body's health and subsequently your quality of life. Okay, so we're just going to do this one, just trying to kind of isolate the neck, okay, keeping the shoulders facing forward, body still. We're just going to turn left and then turn right. Okay. For me, I feel a little bit of a quality issue going to the right. Left side feels like I have a little bit more, but it doesn't really feel like that much, so it's not really an elephant for me. What's it like for you? You know, make a note. And then the last two that we're going to do are going to be feet motion assessments. Okay, and this is one of the reasons why I recommend that you do this with your shoes off. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to do this motion called plantar flexion. Okay, that's where we're pushing the feet down, the toes down more specifically, and lifting up onto the heels. So we're going to go just like this. Okay, and it may for you feel difficult to even get into this position. If it is, then go ahead and hold on to the chair. But what I want to know with me is, what's the difference? Is there a difference when I do this? Does it feel different on one side versus another? I can feel on my left side, my tendency is to kind of bend my knee a little bit, whereas on my right side, it's a lot easier to keep my knee straight. Okay, that's something that I need to know because that represents some amount of motion issue that maybe needs to get looked at. And I'm way ahead of that, by the way, because I practice what I preach and I get worked on as often as possible. So next thing we're going to look at is called dorsiflexion. All right, this is where we're basically going to just pull up. Okay, and this one we're going to do one at a time. All right, we're going to try to keep our knee locked, keep our heel down, and just pull our foot up, just like that. Okay, getting the toes up, getting the foot up. Okay, how's that feel? How far does it go? Same thing on the left. Okay, these feel pretty similar, although I feel a little more tightness in my calf on the left side. So I would make note of that, and this is a place where I have had an injury in the past to this left ankle, so I'm not necessarily expecting it to be exactly the same, but it definitely tells me whether this is a motion issue that maybe needs a little bit of work. Okay, so hopefully that was helpful for you. Okay, and so not to bombard you with too much information, I'm not really going to get into kind of the what to do about some of these things just yet, okay, because I really would rather you just spend some time just exploring these things on your own body, and you can even do some movements that have not even been mentioned on this video. If there's a certain movement that really is bothersome, like maybe you're having trouble scratching your back, or maybe you're having trouble rotating behind you to grab something out of the back seat, or you know, reaching across to wash your arm in the shower, you know, whatever it may be, you know, see what it's like on both sides and really kind of assess that on yourself, because learning where you have these deficits is the first step to getting them better. And it's better that you learn how to figure this stuff out on your own body than always having to rely on somebody like me or somebody like James to figure these things out for you. Now, when it comes to what you actually do about it, you know, that might be a different story. But we'll release some videos in the future too that will let you know what to do, just to kind of get some of these things working a little bit better, moving a little bit better, so that you can at least overcome these smaller hurdles. And then, of course, if you have bigger ones that need more supervised training, then we're always here for that as well. So hopefully this was helpful for you. Email me with any questions, and have fun checking out your movements. All right, see you next time.